Energy healing is this lovely technology of consciousness. Really, it is a technology of consciousness. It's a technology of awareness, because awareness is something we all have and we're all really good at focusing. And in energy healing, what we do is we use awareness, we focus it in on the areas that are a problem, whatever symptoms or challenges we're facing, we focus our awareness in that way, in that direction. And awareness naturally brings a lot of resources with it, because awareness is source material. So wherever the awareness focuses, it enlivens wholeness. It enlivens, and health is wholeness. Health is wholeness. So awareness naturally does that. But another really important part of energy healing is getting to the root of a concern or situation, like making sure that we're focusing the attention on just the right spot, right? Because like if you have a symptom that's on the surface, say a boil on the surface of the skin, and we focus just on the surface of it, like a gardener who thinks he's gonna like just focuses on the leaves. If the gardener only focused on the leaves, then he wouldn't know to put fertilizer on the root, right? So it's a sort of similar principle here, that in energy healing, we start with a symptom, which is on the surface, but we use awareness in a way that allows us to kind of dig down and get into the root or the cause of the symptom. And then using simple principles based on the nature of consciousness itself, enhance the healing effect or the effect of creating wholeness. We enhance that at that point where at the inception of the illness or problem. So that's what we're going to do in today's webinar. We're going to focus in, and this topic of today's webinar is healing for the systems of the body. So we're going to be looking mostly at systems, but we're going to go through that cycle many times in today's webinar. I've got a whole list of different systems we can look at. And as we do that, we gain direct experience of taking it from the surface, digging into the root, focusing the awareness and engaging principles of consciousness which enhance the integration of wholeness or divinity in that area. So we do that over and over again, many times in today's session, and we'll talk about it. So we have two strokes. We have the stroke of experience and the stroke of understanding. So we put those two strokes together, and we're doing it as a big collective, which is so cool, because when we do this as a collective, it's like we create kind of a momentum behind our work, because we're all kind of doing it together. I mean, some people are more engaged than others. We don't know. Maybe some of y'all are out there having your dinner or whatever, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because in the end, these webinars end up being seen by thousands of people, even in some cases, tens of thousands, so far, tens of thousands of people. So what that means is that over time, it becomes a very large collective that focuses in on this process, experience and understanding of going from the surface into the root, and then bringing awareness to the root in a sort of very delicate manner that supports the integration of wholeness, and rinse and repeat. So that's what we're going to do. It's not too hard. Anybody can do this. This is great. Beginners, advanced, you can all do it. Thank you all for being with me. It means a lot to be with all of you and doing this, because I discover a lot of new stuff too, with the incredible light of our group shining on the topic at hand. And I really appreciate that. And I feel like it's an honor to be the voice of our group. So thank you. All right. So that's what energy healing is. So now we're going to take a minute. We're just going to put our awareness. We're going to start this section of the healing time, putting our attention on the endocrine system. We start with the pituitary. It's right up kind of in front and down of the brain. And what I notice when I put my attention on the pituitary gland is it is full of feeling. It is just full of feeling. Also, I don't know how many of you are experiencing this, but we don't normally put our attention on like real isolated organs in our body unless they hurt, right? So the pituitary isn't used to having a big focus or flow of your awareness. So what mine isn't, certainly, because I don't like often make a point of putting my attention on my pituitary gland. So what I'm experiencing as I put my attention on the pituitary gland is the pituitary gland kind of feels like, oh, she's looking at me. You see other people raising their hands too. It's like, oh, I'm not used to getting this much attention. Oh my gosh. And there's a kind of almost a feeling like there had been this loving longing for this attention. There had been this sort of deep unspoken desire for your beautiful attention to be on your pituitary gland in your endocrine system. And it was just waiting. It was just like being patient. It was just, loving you and trying to do its best. Well, it just waited. And then when the attention goes, it's almost like what my pituitary gland is feeling is it almost feels overwhelmed because it wanted that for so long and didn't get it. And now that it's getting it, it's like, oh my God, I'm finally getting what I really wanted. Oh, like the little kid who gets a puppy for Christmas, that kind of thing. It's like the kid's so happy, bursts into tears, Anyway, I'm feeling, that's what my pituitary gland is feeling right now, putting my attention on. So this is good. It tells me two things. It tells us two things. It tells us that it's good to put the attention there more often so that it's not so overly hypersensitive. And it also tells us just how incredibly, incredibly beloved and dear and precious our endocrine systems are. And also how sort of attuned they are to feelings. And of course, that's a no-brainer, no pun intended, that, the pituitary is continuously responsible for producing those neurochemicals that give expression to feelings. So one of the things that I'm noticing is putting attention on the pituitary gland is that the pituitary gland remembers. It remembers points in the history of the life. It's a little bit like the way people's hearts remember, right? The heart remembers all the great heights of glorious, loving experiences that you've ever had, and also the times it was hurt, something like that. Well, the pituitary gland also has a memory element to it. And it remembers especially times when it was like glorified, where it's in its glory, like, when the body starts to transform from child body into adult body, the pituitary goes through like a special dance that it does at that time. And I'm seeing the memories of that, still held as special or sacred. And also potential, like a really interesting untapped potential in the pituitary gland. Oh, it's so interesting we're doing this. Like I just have one word, endocrine. I've got somebody who sent in a question. Can you please do a healing for the endocrine system? But I have no idea what's gonna, y'all adorable ones are the ones who are shining the light that lets this information come forward. So thank you for that. So there's this untapped potential in the pituitary gland. One of the first things is, of course, as soon as we notice potential, we kind of fall back on our blueprint, the blueprint for the life in the body, which is pure potential. And remember, the pure potential, it's like that light, right? I'm glad I picked this background. It's got this brightness, the brightness of your pure potential before it has become divine expression, before it has been realized. the pituitary gland is, and its administrative function for the other glands in the body, it is awareness is folding back into its own nature in the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland is examining its pure potential. It's kind of like comparing and contrasting what is being experienced at the moment versus what is that pure full potential. And that light of Parabrahman, the light that goes beyond anything that can even be described, that is sitting like a backdrop. I could pick a different backdrop that looks more like nothing or something. But yeah, that Parabrahman is acting as an anchor. I would say the pure potential is anchoring into that expression of absolute totality, wholeness, absolute wholeness, absolute. So the pure potential is like refining and becoming more opulent. It's becoming, there's a wave of awareness that's going kind of like back and forth between the endocrine system and the field of unmanifest totality. And as that happens, it's causing integration. So there's an integration of the light of divinity, of divine being, the light of absolute being is integrating, and it's using your pure potential as like the vehicle or the channel through which it's integrating. I'm also seeing meridians that run from the heart energy center to the pituitary gland, very important. So these meridians are clearing. A lot of stuff is clearing from these meridians. It's different for different people, but they're layers of imbalances. But as I mentioned before, all the imbalances essentially come back to that principle that when the wholeness starts to become many, the wholeness gets shrouded or gets covered. Like that's like probably the seed of all seeds of all imbalance. So I could be naming off a laundry list of different imbalances that are clearing, but suffice it to say that what's ultimately clearing is any shadow that blocks the flow of that brilliant light of eternal wholeness. So it feels like there's a light shining. And this is very interesting because the pituitary is quite lit up right now because we've been focusing our awareness on it. It's gotten used to it. It's not crying anymore. It's not like, oh my God, I can't believe you're putting your attention on. No, it's like, I gotcha. I'm right here. I'm with you. I love you. And then the heart area is actually able to be nourished. This is so interesting. The heart, the physical heart, and the circulatory system, and the immune system. Wow, because the immune system is overseen by the thymus, which is also a gland, right? So the thymus is also part of the endocrine system. But the endocrine system is able to cultivate mixtures of different neurochemicals that are incredibly, incredibly nourishing and healing for the circulatory system, for the heart. I bet. Now this is just what I'm kind of seeing as an overall general patterning that's happening in our group right now during this time of the healing. But I would imagine that if the endocrine system, I just moved my desk. I got too excited. If the endocrine system can make a particular, like, sophisticated combination of neurochemicals that is especially healing for the heart, then I bet you money it can make mixtures that are especially good for other systems of the body too, yes? Whatever system is ailing at the time. So let's just look into that. Yes, yes. So download coming in for everyone. Oh, yes, we're good. We still have like 5 minutes. Download coming in for everyone of the formulas. The download, as I mentioned before, all this knowledge, all this like spiritual knowledge and spiritual information, it's archived at various places in the cosmos. So it's received down in through the crown of the head. That's why we did that other clearing earlier in the nervous system, so you could be an open vessel and receive this information nicely. And what's happening is it's like the heart is talking to the endocrine system or the circulatory system, the intelligence or the devata of the heart, or the circulatory is talking to the devata of the endocrine. And it's like I think the hypothalamus is definitely involved here. The hypothalamus sits very close to the pituitary, and the hypothalamus gives information. There's a lot of information exchanged between the hypothalamus and the pituitary, so that kind of makes sense. But there's definitely a very clearly defined reading that the hypothalamus is getting on the nature of the intelligence of the circulatory system. So we're understanding, at this time, we're understanding our circulatory systems in a way that we have not ever understood them quite before. And part of the story is isolating out that particular system. So we're just looking at it in like fine detail. And then the second part of it is not just looking at it physically, but looking at its energy structure. So that means looking at the etheric structure of the circulatory system and then diving even deeper than that and looking at the intelligence that is responsible for all functions of the circulatory system. And what I'm noticing is that the heart energy center is producing a wave of like sort of deep loving recognition that's coming back up and is going directly into the hypothalamus, and it's like nourishing, it's causing nourishment in the hypothalamus. That makes a lot of sense. Like I hadn't thought that we would be doing healings, excuse me, for the hypothalamus, but it makes a lot of sense because the hypothalamus is the organ of our brain that lets us look inside our bodies. Like that's where the inner vision is that's the organ responsible for the inner vision. That's where it's centered in a sense. The thalamus, it processes all the outside information, right? But the hypothalamus is like the mother, and it processes all the inside information. So the hypothalamus clearly is quite an archive of comprehensive understanding of all the body systems. Well, we like to go to the seed, don't we? We do healings for the hypothalamus, all the systems improve. I was wondering how I was going to get through this long list. Now I know. Just go to the source. Hypothalamus is associated with the moon and with mother. Hypothalamus is receiving also this download that I mentioned before, which is still coming in from cosmic regions. This download is presenting, is providing access to blueprints and templates for all the systems of the body as optimized. How to optimize every system of the body. Good. We want that. We want the cosmic mechanic to be in here optimizing all of our body systems for sure. And part of the story there is that I'm seeing something that looks like a matrix forming in the astral structure of the hypothalamus, also the pituitary, because we're working with that. Oh, looks like, a lot of times matrices. Okay, so for those of you who are new, matrix is a word you can look up on my knowledge base. And it basically is an astral form. that brings together threads of consciousness in an extremely highly orderly fashion, and also in many cases in a kind of fractaline fashion, because matrices are a little bit, they'll be like crystals, you know, that they're like patterns within patterns within patterns, so that even the molecular shape of the, well, this isn't actually the best example because it's not, that's not the way that crystal normally, oh, this would be good. This is a really good example because here you can actually see it. What we've got going on here are little tiny shapes that are the same shape as the bigger shapes, right? And if you go smaller, smaller, smaller on this crystal, I love this, it's such a pretty crystal. If you go smaller, smaller, smaller on this crystal, even the molecules are in this hexagonal shape. Okay, so fractal structure. So this is actually happening now for the whole body. It's expanding to the whole body. So matrix for the whole body, also for each system of the body receives a matrix, also each organ in each system receives the matrix, also each tissue, also each cell, all cellular structures. The mitochondria, they love you. The mitochondria love this. The gut bacteria love this. And I'm examining the matrix to find out what kind of matrix it is. So the first thing that I'm noticing is that a protection matrix is coming in. Oh, that's so interesting. Not what I was expecting. Not what I was expecting. I'm asking the source of creation, is it possible that we could have like a 112 point matrix, which is the one that lets the one shine through the veil of separation, or the veil of illusion of separation. It lets the one shine through. That's a 112 point matrix. It's all the ways to reach wholeness. Just feeling that. And that's really getting those waves of energy rolling through the body as that happens. Starting in the center here, in the hypothalamus, pituitary, and then it just expands to include all the systems, all the organs. And it expands out and expands in to include all the cells. Again, I'm kind of feeling some little waves of purification in the body, because the body is like, it's like a man who is thirsty for so long. He was thirsty for so long, and then he got to drink, and it was so nice. Oh, the heart especially. Oh, so sweet. So much love and gratitude, just flowing, 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 always offering that back to the source of creation where it multiplies to infinity. And of course, being of the source of creation is, it's like the playground where we play, that ocean, that field of purest light where we play together here. It activates and enlivens through this and shines even brighter. It's beautiful.